Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Garruk Wildspeaker and Nissa Ravane, the influences behind the Beastcaller class in Magic Legends. Normally I'd give my disclaimer that we don't necessarily know if these characters are going to appear in the game or not, and while that applies for Garruk, we actually have confirmation that Nissa Ravane will be in the game. In both cases though, I need to make it clear that these are not playable characters. These are just the characters that the class is based off of. As an adult, Garruk is an imposing figure. He's tall, heavily muscled, adorned in leather and furs, and he carries around this really big axe. He has the ability to sense the trails of magic, including those left by planeswalkers, and he has an affinity for animals and the beasts of the wild. After defeating particularly difficult prey, he sometimes connects them to himself, gaining their strength. As a child, Garruk lived on a farm with his father, a task mage named Racklin. On Garruk's 10th birthday, his father taught him his first spell. Also on that day, a sheriff from the local lord, Lord Faldis, came to conscript Garruk into the lord's army. Racklin told Garruk to hide in the forest until he told him it was safe to return, and Garruk ran from the soldiers for weeks, speaking to his father through an artifact that he had given Garruk. He warned Garruk to always listen to nature, and to avoid the evils and deceptions of people. Unfortunately, Racklin was killed. After about 7 years, Garruk had grown, and had bound several large creatures to his service. He sought his father's murderers, Faldis and his troops, for revenge. He rampaged through town, confronting and killing the sheriff, and taking the sheriff's helm and returning to the wild. He traveled to Chandalar to hunt a large predatory creature called the Ursoth. While there, he ran into Liliana Vess, who had killed one of his beasts in her search for the Chain Veil. When he confronted her, she used the Chain Veil to overpower and curse him. Desperate for a cure, Garruk planeswalked to Ravnica and confronted Jace Beleren, demanding to know where Liliana was. An enraged Garruk overpowered Jace, but came to his senses right before he swung the killing blow. Jace relented and told him Liliana's last location. Garruk eventually tracked Liliana to the plane of Innistrad. In their first encounter on Innistrad, she turned a horde of zombies on him, and he slew them all, though they bought Liliana time to escape. Garruk succumbed to his curse afterwards, becoming a mindless killing machine. During this time, the Archangel Avacyn cast a spell called the Curse Mute, in her attempt to turn werewolves into Wolfir, woven servants with an inner peace, on Innistrad. While unintended, it also affected Garruk, allowing him to regain some sense of sanity. He temporarily abandoned his hunt for Liliana and instead began searching for a cure. His curse worsened after he left Innistrad. His connection to nature waned, and his desire to hunt increased. He embraced the darkness, each kill chipping away a little bit of his humanity. A planeswalker called Vronos, the Grey Fencer, attempted to bring Garruk back to Innistrad to heal his curse, but was killed, and Garruk took his mask as a trophy. Garruk traveled to Chandalar to complete his transformation, and likely destroy the plane in the process. Jace sought to heal the man, and a suppression hedron was used to stop Garruk's transformation into a demon. When the War of the Spark ignited, Bolas called planeswalkers to Ravnica to steal their sparks for himself. Bolas made sure that Garruk was not compelled to come along with the others. Bolas feared that Garruk would kill the planeswalkers before he could harvest their sparks. On Eldraine, Garruk hunted a Fey planeswalker, Oko, who had managed to trap Garruk in a net of vines. Oko mesmerized Garruk, turning him into a slave bodyguard. Oko had Garruk save a pair of twin planeswalkers, Rowan and Will Kenrith, from a horde of goblins. Oko also had Garruk kill the guards of the High King, Alginus Kenrith, before kidnapping the man and setting a trap for the Kenrith twins. During their captivity, Will offered to remove the hedron from Garruk, believing that to be the source of the curse. Once removed, the curse went wild, and Garruk rampaged. Garruk began hunting after Oko, and was in turn followed by Will and Rowan. At one point, Garruk fell into a river, and Will pulled the man into a large chalice that appeared in the water. The chalice was the Cauldron of Eternity, a magical artifact that was summoned by the persistence of Will Kenrith, and it forcibly removed the curse from Garruk. The cauldron deemed Garruk worthy and granted him life. Garruk found and captured Oko, but did not kill the Fae due to Rowan's protest. Oko took the opportunity to planeswalk away, with Will and Rowan following suit shortly after. Garruk wanted to follow Oko, but the memories of Will risking his life to pull him from the river came to mind. He promised the twins' parents that he would look after them. When asked why, he simply stated, "They helped me, I will help them," before planeswalking away. Shifting gears to Nissa, Nissa Ravane is a green-aligned elven planeswalker from the plane of Zendikar, and another of the Lorwyn 5, which were the first 5 planeswalkers printed as the planeswalker card type. Her story has been changed a little bit over the years, but the important bits are still there. Originally, she wasn't the most tolerant of beings, and was very pro-elf and pro-Zendikar, even at the expense of other planes. To understand Nissa, you have to understand the Eldrazi. The Eldrazi were ancient Lovecraftian creatures from the blind eternities, the space between planes. The most powerful of the Eldrazi, Emrakul, is probably the closest being magic has to Cthulhu, and Nissa Ravane was responsible for releasing Emrakul. The major Eldrazi had been trapped on Zendikar in the Eye of Ugin, bound there by Ugin, a colorless elder dragon planeswalker and twin brother to the evil Nicol Bolas, and his fellow planeswalkers, Sorin Markov of Innistrad and Nahiri of Zendikar. Nissa released the Eldrazi thinking the Eldrazi would leave. Nissa is an animist, animating land and earth. Her powers connect her to the plane of Zendikar itself, and she can feel what Zendikar feels, such as its anger towards the Eldrazi. Things did not go as planned, and the Eldrazi wreaked havoc on Zendikar. Nissa met some of the other major planeswalkers, Jace, Gideon, and Chandra, and together they formed the Gatewatch, the Magic the Gathering version of the Justice League, or the Avengers, to stop evil in the multiverse. Each planeswalker took an oath to stand together and fight the Eldrazi. The Gatewatch defeated 2 of the great Eldrazi, Ulamog and Kozilek, and tracked Emrakul to Innistrad, where they trapped Emrakul in the moon itself. Nissa joined the effort as she had begun caring about other planes as well, realizing what a horrible fate she had released upon the multiverse. Nissa does eventually leave the Gatewatch, though. She believes that one of the other planeswalkers, Liliana Vess, is becoming a threat. After the hour of devastation on Amonkhet, the Gatewatch found themselves on Dominaria, where there was, conveniently, the last demon that Liliana needed to slay to break her contract. With that, Nissa renounced her oath and returned to Zendikar. Against her will, she was lured to Ravnica by the interplanar beacon, which was used to draw planeswalkers to the plane, and became trapped there along with all the others. She fought alongside the other planeswalkers against Nicol Bolas and his horde of zombies, and even animated Vitu-Ghazi, the home tree and guild hall of the Selesnya Conclave. She used the tree to tear down a statue of Nicol Bolas, boosting morale. The victory was short-lived, however, as Bolas called forth the God Eternals, the zombified gods of Amonkhet, to Ravnica, and they quickly destroyed the tree. It was then that Nissa rejoined the Gatewatch, renewing her vows. She, along with several others, was sent to persuade the still neutral guilds of Ravnica to join the fight against Nicol Bolas. Jace thought she would be useful in negotiations with the Selesnya Conclave, but the Selesnya were infuriated with her for the loss of Vitu-Ghazi. She later helped perform a ritual at the ruins of the Guildpact Chamber to repair the ley lines that empowered the living Guildpact. They were able to resurrect the dragon Niv-Mizzet and grant the power of the living Guildpact to him, just in time for Niv-Mizzet to save them from the god eternal Kefnet. Nissa survived the battle, and in the celebration, she and Chandra professed their completely platonic love for each other, much to the disdain of certain parts of the community. After the memorial for Gideon, she invited Chandra to come with her to Zendikar, which Chandra declined. Nissa returned to Zendikar, where the planeswalker Nahiri, another guardian of Zendikar, drew her ire. Nahiri wanted to stop the royal, even if it harmed the plants and soil of Zendikar, and showed no remorse over killing one of Nissa's elementals. Nissa turned to Jace for help, but was frustrated, as Jace wanted to study Nahiri's artifacts. When Jace finally came to Zendikar, they followed Nahiri. During the search, Nissa found a magical focal point, where Nahiri could channel the energy from her lithoform core, a dangerous artifact, all over Zendikar through the ley lines. Nissa destroyed the focal point, and a fight ensued. She eventually found herself in possession of the core, and learned that it was an ancient piece of Zendikar's soul, and that she could use it to restore Zendikar. She used the power of the core, destroying the city she was in and reducing the forest to ash, elementals lying motionless in the dust. She then felt the elementals in the soil around her recovering. Zendikar was healing, and becoming stronger than it was before the battle with the Eldrazi. That's all we have for today, and you should be fairly caught up on the major points of their stories. Again, these are very major characters in Magic the Gathering, so a lot has to be left out for time, but you can look them up and find more about them. They've both appeared in several stories and books. As always, if you'd like to leave a comment, like, or subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If not, that's okay too. I understand. Either way, I hope you have an awesome day, and I will catch you next time.